Hey everyone, I just want to make a quick video on some tips and tricks when installing a new head unit in your Nissan 350Z or other Nissan vehicle from those year ranges. While this video is more tailored towards 350Z owners with the Bose factory system. So first thing you're going to need when installing a new head unit is a new head unit, and then you're going to need your trim piece and your wiring harness. That's pretty much it, unless you're installing other speakers, replacement speakers, and if that's the case, I'll get into that in a second. So your head unit, you can obviously take care of and pick a single din or double din. Now if you buy the Metra trim and a double din head unit, you'll have to trim out a little notch here to make the double din work. Because of this, I went with the Scotch brand, I believe is how you pronounce it, trim piece with my double din. It looks a little bit cleaner, and there's a lot of other people that recommend it as well. Then next you're going to need your wiring harness, and as I was mentioning, if you want to replace your speakers with aftermarket, you'll have to run all new wiring with the Bose system, because the Bose system itself operates at a different ohm rating than traditional head units and speakers. So I went with just the simple head unit install, left the factory speakers, just want to make it as easy as possible. Now if you're doing like I did and just replacing the head unit and leaving the Bose factory speakers, this is the harness or module you'll need. The PAC ROEM Nice 2. I don't have it in the packaging here. It's installed. I didn't really want to tear it all back apart. But this is what you will need to correct the ohm differences between your head unit and speakers. When wiring it in, something you'll want to keep in mind is to ignore these low-level wires that you see here that are designated with a red stripe on them. You do not need to connect the low-level ones, just the high-level. So that kind of simplifies the wiring for your head unit's wiring harness. It's fairly straightforward, color for color. Make sure you read the directions, obviously, and if there's any sort of differences in the wire designations. The next thing I'd recommend is when installing your head unit, you use these Pos-Twist, Pos-Lock connectors. They're fairly simple. You strip your wire, twist them together, feed them through, and then just tighten the connection. They're very secure, but they're not permanent. So I usually prefer soldering wires together, but in this sort of instance where you might run into some issues after you install, this helps make it a little bit easier to adjust your wiring without cutting or removing solder. So then we get into the actual install itself. Now, a lot of people have mentioned that you have to remove the shift knob. Even the Crutchfield instructions recommend removing your shift knob to do the install. If you want to remove your shift knob, you have to protect it, twist it, you have to hold it from the shift fork underneath to avoid damage to your transmission or linkage. I found it's just easiest to pop this trim up here, you kind of grip it underneath, pop it up. You're going to kind of unhinge some little trim clips behind, and you can actually take this whole trim piece and swing it around to your driver or passenger side. That should provide you enough workspace to take care of the head unit install without actually removing your shift knob. And that's kind of the method I would recommend to avoid any troubles, things like that. So then when we get into the actual disassembly and removal of your radio, there's going to be some little screws back behind here on this side and this side. You're going to have your rubber little mat you remove. Remove these screws here. There's going to be some screws under behind this trim piece you pop up. And then you'll also have a little plug you need to undo behind your gauge pods on the left-hand side. It's kind of a pain, so I'd recommend having a set of hands or someone else to help you kind of get everything removed, as well as complete the install. Now, the new module itself, or wiring harness for the PAC ROEM Nice 2, takes up a little bit of space. So the wiring behind your head unit is going to be kind of tight and cramped. You're going to have to massage the wires and do what you can to make it fit. But before you put it all back together, I would definitely recommend testing out your new head unit, making sure everything sounds correct and is functioning properly. That's about it. Like I said, the main things I would recommend when taking care of the install is that you either use a Scotch trim if you go with a double din unit. Make sure to use the PAC harness if you have a Bose system to correct the ohm differences. You can flip this trim piece out of the side on the passenger or driver's side, respectively, so that way you don't have to remove your shift knob and possibly have any damage to your linkages or transmission. And just kind of have an extra set of hands, because it's going to be it's going to be a little bit of a struggle getting it all back together and fit in place properly, but it's overall worth it in the end. And I know I personally think that my system sounds a lot better with the new head unit and the pack module than it did with the factory Bose unit. Maybe it's just a placebo effect, maybe it's not, but I think if you kind of follow these little steps, tips, and tricks, it'll be a lot easier for the install. I haven't made videos about the car before, and I think what I'll do is I'll kind of continue on making a few more little tips, tricks videos, things that I've found for other owners out there to make things easier. Sorry for the camera quality and a little shakiness. It's a little tight here in recording the car, but I thought this was the best place to try and show you guys anything that you might need to know. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments, and otherwise, if you want to see any more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned. Thanks, guys.